I'm converting my Volkswagen Maxi CADDY Life into a micro camper van. This week I'm installing the sink, the tap and the worktop, but I screwed up. I'm feeling a bit disappointed and a bit foolish, but I think I can turn this around. So good morning everybody, I'm converting my Volkswagen CADDY MAXI LIFE into a micro camper van. Now normally you'll find me out in the field with the camera, living the dream, photographing the great British landscape. And converting this van is going to make it so much easier for me to get out there and enjoy the countryside even more than I do now. Now I don't claim to know exactly what I'm doing, but I'll tell you what I do know. I've got a plan and I've got a van, so I'm going to crack on with it and see how far we can go. I think anybody can do this. You just got to put your mind to it, put a bit of thought into it, a bit of planning, and you will be successful. If you want to watch the series from the beginning, then I have a playlist that you can follow. So far we've done the insulation, well, as much of it as I can get to anyway. We've put in a subfloor, 9mm ply, insulation underneath, sound deadening and a vinyl top just to finish it all off. And we've constructed a frame for the bed, the seating, the worktops and the cupboards out of 2020 extruded aluminium section. So today it's all about the wood. It's about installing the worktops, the doors, cover panels. Now I do have a bit of a confession to make. Come inside and I'll show you what I mean. So last week the weather wasn't quite so good. Trying to work on the van in the rain isn't that easy. With the doors open, the back open, running backwards and forwards, carrying bits of wood here and there and everywhere, it made it really quite difficult to work out exactly how I was going to film and keep everything dry as well. So I did a little bit of work without you. What I've done is I've installed the shelves and the seat bases which need to go in. Now they had to go in before the worktops and the doors anyway, so I thought I'll crack on, get those done and show you the interesting stuff this week. Putting the seat bases and shelves in was relatively easy. It was just a matter of cutting out the corners of the wood so that I could fit it in around the 2020 extruded aluminium. Today is the interesting part. Today we work out whether or not all my measurements are right and whether or not I can actually get this worktop in the right place. Well, I like the colour. I don't actually believe it. You know, I said what could go possibly wrong? Well, it did. Schoolboy error for an engineer. Let me show you. It's not the only mistake, but it's the first big mistake that I've made, and it's going to be a little bit of an expensive one. It's too short. By about 200mm. I know exactly what I've done. I don't even have to look at it. I've left a couple of digits off when I've measured it. Easy to do, easy mistake, and a schoolboy error, because the rule is, whether you're in engineering, carpentry or anything, it's measure twice, cut once. In this case I probably measured it when I did it about 500 times and still managed to get it wrong. I'm absolutely gutted. Absolutely gutted. Not to worry. Not to worry. We can get another panel and finish it off later on. So, going to order up another panel. So 1 week on, I've ordered up a new panel. Okay, cost me about another £70 I suppose, but basically that's it. It's in position and it's ready to cut. Now cutting it is not going to be as easy as I thought. In fact, this is the bit of the project which is really worrying me. This is where it could all go wrong, and over the course of the next hour I could probably end up costing myself another £70 and another week's delay. But we're not going to cut this board straight off. What we're going to do is we're going to make up a template. Now, something I've noticed when looking at this van, there's another problem with it. It's not exactly straight and parallel. So if you measure from the back of the window from side to side, and then the back of this window on this edge, there's about a 50mm difference. So that means that the sides of the van are running out to the centre line by about 25mm. So if I want this edge to be straight down through the middle of the cabinets, which I want them to be, I want this furniture to all be square, I'm going to have to cut over the length of the window a 25mm taper down one edge when I fit it in. So it's going to be a little bit more complex than I'd originally thought, but it does now explain a reason why I was struggling to get everything in square to start with. So I'm going to work on the template, and then we're going to attach the template to the board, line it all up, mark it up, cut the worktop, give it its first fit, and see where we are. Right, this is the bit I'm scared about. So that's the template done and completed, and I've just marked out the board using the template. So all I did was laid the wooden template that I created on top, masked up the worktop with a masking tape, laid it on top and drawn around the template. So now I've got a nice clear easy line which I can follow. Now I've had to twist the template through that 25mm that I was talking about to try and get that angle on it. Now this is where you screw up. If I was going to make something wrong and make a big mistake, it's going to be now. It doesn't have to be a perfect fit in the van, because around the edge of the window and the edges of the trim on the edge that I'm cutting, I am going to put some trim anyway. Not quite sure what I'm going to use yet. I might use a piece of black decorative rope just to finish that edge off. So there is an opportunity to hide any mistakes, but obviously if it's way out, it's going to look completely wrong. What's important is that I've got enough room in there, I'll call it wiggle room, so that I can get a reasonably straight parallel edge with the edge of the 2020 frame. So it's time to cut this now, and fingers crossed everything's going to work out reasonably well. Well, cutting the template out was probably the most horrific thing I had to do. Cutting this was twice as bad, getting the worktop right, especially since I measured it wrong last week, and now it's down to the moment of truth. Now I've already pre-marked it out for where the sink is going to go. I'm a little bit disappointed because it's a little bit too far in from where I want, and that's because of the position of these rails. I hadn't really quite worked out how long these rails were going to be. If I'd done it differently, maybe I would have taken the rails out, but we'll see where we are. Anyway, it is solid, so it's going to be really strong anyway. But let's put this in place and see if it actually fits. And actually, do you know what? I'm delighted. That is pretty blinking close. I'm really happy with that. It looks quite straight down through this edge when I'm looking through. It looks reasonably parallel. Certainly nothing that I'm really going to worry about. Maybe it's out a little bit, but we can probably tweak that a little bit when we screw it down into position. So now that I'm happy that this is in the right place, I'm going to bolt the framework down to the floor and secure that in the right place so I know exactly where it is. It's a little bit difficult to show you what I've done or how I'm going to do that inside the van. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bit of the flooring, which I used as a sample, and I'll show you exactly how I did that whilst we're stood here. Well, this is a luxury. I've got a worktop to use. It's easier to show you this here because it's really quite cramped in the van now. But basically, this is a section of the flooring that I'm going to be that I've used. So we've got our foam on the top. We've got our 9mm plywood, and underneath we've got our insulation. And what I decided to do was that I thought if I ever wanted to take this out or move it, using self-tappers on their own would probably wear this out fairly quick, and I wouldn't be able to do it or reposition it. So I decided to use some inserts into the wood. The other reason for that as well is that if I use self-tappers through the brackets which I'm using, they would have been about 4 or 5mm, which is absolutely fine, but I just didn't think that that was really quite strong enough. So I bought some inserts, and these inserts basically screw into the surface of the wood, like this one here. They screw down inside, and then inside that I can screw an M5 cap head, an M5 cap head bolt. And by putting that bolt in, it enables me to bolt down through. And really, it's very strong. You know, I'm not going to pull that off very easily. It's going to be a really strong fixing. Now, you might think for the size of it, the number of units that I got down, the M5 bolts aren't particularly strong. But I'm putting down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably about 9 or 10 of these. Now, anybody can work out the maths at 9/5s are about 45. So I'm putting at least about an M45 size bolt, 12, 15 mil into the floor to anchor this down. And trust me, that is going to be more than enough. So let's get this bolted down. Hope you can see me. As I said in the last bit just now, it's getting a bit tight to sort of see what's going on. So this is getting difficult to explain, but hopefully you can get the general gist of it. So I've got all the tools and all the equipment ready. I've got this one screw to put in here now at the moment, and I've got my drill ready. So it's worth getting all the tools ready that you need for something like this before you start it. So we're just going to drill the hole in here now. I'd already put masking tape on the drill so I could see how deep I had to go. Now I found it much easier with these inserts to actually use the drill to put them in as well. What I found with the other ones, what I found when trying to put them in by hand is it just was a bit difficult to line everything up. So that's that ready to go. There's that. I just tend to make sure that it's just below the level of the thing. So I'll make sure that that's roughly lined up and in the right place. And then the first thing I'm going to do, it's always something I've forgotten. Lost my Allen key for there. Right, okay, so that's in roughly the right place. Just make sure it's lined up nicely. Bolt that one down. I decided to use the same right angle brackets as I did for bolting the 2020 together, simply because it kept everything nice and neat and tidy. But the only thing was they've got lugs on the back to fit into the grooves, and because of the direction they're fitting on some of these, I've had to put them in a slightly different position. And there it is. That's all there is to it. That was the last one, because I've done the others already. So we're bolted down to the floor. Worktop's up in the right place. Top's pre-marked out, ready for the sink and the taps to go in. So the next question is, do I bolt the worktop down where it is and do the sink in position, or do I take it out and fit the sink outside? Okay. So I decided to have a bit of a break and quick tidy up and a drink. So that's gone relatively well. Probably as good as I thought it could go. It could have gone a little bit better. Now I'm looking at it. The worktop, yeah, it's a little bit out of alignment, but you know, it's nothing that's going to sort of end the day. It's gone in relatively well. Yes, it's not 100% right where it fits against the sides of the windows, but we'll have a measure up there later on. And like I said, I'm going to pack those edges and finish that rough edge off with a trim. Probably be a piece of decorative rope draped around there and just sort of like tacked in place at various positions. So we'll worry about that. I've decided to bolt the worktop down, so I've bolted the base and everything down now. I've bolted the worktop down in place so we can work on installing the tap and the sink. Now the tap that I've got is a manually operated tap. It's just a manual hand operated one. It's not a big van, you can't stand up, so I didn't see much point in having a foot pedal because that would have been difficult. And also, although I'm going to have some power in here, I want this to be off grid. So I've gone for a tap that I can that requires no power whatsoever. A small van like this, having a working tap, although it's only going to be cold water, is really a bit of a luxury. But you know, I've seen a number of YouTube videos where people have been sort of bending over, getting water containers out of cupboards, struggling to tip it into cups without spilling it. And I know that when you're camping can be difficult, and in a small van it would be really difficult as well. Hence why I'm going to use the tap. Now, I'm not quite sure what size this is, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a test drilling for the tap. And then we'll put that in place and make sure where it is. Once I've done that, it's a matter of cutting out the worktop. Well, it went relatively well, but it was a little bit difficult cutting the worktop. The jigsaw kept jumping a little bit for some reason. But it looks like it's going to work out okay. Now I've just put the sink together, to be honest, and assembled all of that, and we'll dry fit it in this place, then we'll mark out where the tap's going to go. It looks like it's going to be okay. Now, I've got a flexible waste pipe that I've bought for the back of it, and the idea with that is it'll automatically go straight into the wastewater tank, which I'm going to put underneath this cupboard, so all that should work reasonably well. So now we'll have a quick look at that and see how we get on. Well, there we are, all fitted in place. Sink's in, needs bolting down. I haven't got the right size screws to do that at the moment, so we'll have to do it later on. But basically the sink is in. Hand operated water tap is there. I've got to connect that up to some waste and to the water connector hose underneath, and I'll take the hose around the back. Waste is in place. I've just got to work out whether I need to notch out the back of the shelf or anything to make room for that later on. But if we do, we'll be doing that later on. Next job for me is going to be fit the end panel on here, fit the cupboard doors all the way around, and then we're down to finishing touches. First thing I've got to do though, before I look at fitting any doors, is have a damn good clean up and sort out. So I'll be back with you after I've cleaned up, after I've sorted out. I'm not going to make you watch that boring stuff. Talking of boring things, this video will go on forever if we talk about doors now. And today it's hot, very hot. So I'm going to say bye for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more photography and van building.